This is Blender 9 Animation 2. We're going to start by doing some texturing of the different shapes. So I'm going to create a UV sphere and zoom in, and what we're going to use this UV sphere for is to make a beach ball. So we're going to create a material like we would normally do, new material, and then we're going to go in and add a texture, and I'm going to open up the texture. I have some pre-made textures available. And we are going to grab the beach ball color and open the image. And what it is basically a red and white stripe, as you can see here, and it repeats. Now the problem with this is if I go to alter it right now, it's only covering one time. And what I like to do is I like to have it map more than one time. So if I go and I increase this to, let's say, 6, we get 6 stripes, but the problem is it's not around the center. So it's doing a global mapping as opposed to a local mapping, and if we try to change the projection in any way, shape, or form, we don't get any updates. So we need to do something else. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to UV mapping, and at this point we don't have a UV map, so we're not going to see anything. So we got to go in and go into edit mode on this shape, and then do mesh. And we want to do this from the front or side view. We don't want to do it from another view. So mesh, unwrap, and we want to do sphere projection. And let's pull up the image editor up here so we can see what this UV looks like. So there's our UV, and everything for the most part, and I can pull up the beach image in the background. You can kind of see how this is mapping. Everything looks okay except for this little part right here. And the reason why this is happening, if you look close, you'll see that this is actually one vertex, and these are all triangles. Everything else is squares, so the mapping gets screwed up in the way that it's working. So there's a workaround on this, and in other 3D programs you won't have this problem because usually they make the top out of a square as well, but in Blender we will have this issue. So I'm going to vertex select mode, and I'm going to select that vertex, and I'm going to hit X and delete it. And now I have a hole. Now I'm going to switch over to edge mode, and I'm going to select one element on the edge. And then I'm going to come in and do select, and I'm going to choose edge loop, and that'll basically grab everything around the loop. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do extrude individual, and all I need to do is basically click the left mouse button, it's been applied, and then do a scale and get this as close as I can and zoom in and keep on making it. So you want to make it small enough that no one can actually see it. And the other thing I'm going to need to do is if I go out from the side, you can see it's a little flat right here. So I need to come in and probably increase this angle just a bit. And we haven't put smoothing on yet, so that'll also help as well. And then you would repeat the same thing. But now if we go to render this out and we get an image, you can see this starts to look a lot better. Now there is a little bit of noise right here, and that's because right now the size is set to 6. This actually has 32 faces around it, so 6 doesn't divide cleanly into 32. So if we change this to an 8, now we get nice clean lineup and arrangement, and you can see everything works out okay and there aren't any problems. So that's how we do that one, and that's for the beach ball. And then what we're going to do is we're going to smooth that out. So let's get out of edit mode and go in and smooth the whole item, and now we have the beach ball. Now the one thing we need to do with this is we need to actually rotate it so we can see it in the view. So I'm going to hold down Control, and let's get, there we go. Okay, so we get the side. Now what we want to do is I just want to show you just simply how to add the rotation. So I'm going to show you a thing called key, and let me get just rid of that and toolbar. And let's get rid of this a little bit bigger. So I don't have any keys currently on this at all. And what I want to do is I want to see if I can create some relatively quickly, just to kind of explain kind of bouncing concepts. Now I could use the technique we did before, which is hit I and apply it. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to actually try a different approach, and I'm going to toggle on this, and this is called auto key in most 3D programs. So what you do is you move to a position, and then if I change any variables, such as rotate, at this point, if I move the scrubber, you'll see it just created a key. Now the key is, whenever you do any action, is for X, Y, Z, for everything, for rotate, scale, etc. So what we want to do is we'll move this over to 10, and at 10 I'm going to take this ball, I'm going to move it up into the air, and then I'm going to move it to 20, and at that point I'm going to move it down here, and then I'm going to move the scrubber to 30 and move it up here, and then go to 40. Oh, what the heck are we doing all the way out there? Okay, so so we got that one right there. Yep, down, and then we'll go to 40. I'll get rid of that other one in a sec. Okay, and then move this up, and then go to 50 and move it down. Okay, and let me also just border select those and delete them. Hit the X key, get rid of those keyframes, and now that one shouldn't be there anymore. Yeah, oh, we got one that I missed. Okay, so at this point, let's shrink this window a bit. And this isn't going to be beautiful just because I'm doing it quickly, but just so you can kind of see, we get this kind of really hokey bounce. Now, the scale, I don't need to change any of these at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide everything except for the scale. And let me make this bigger so you can see it a little easier. Okay, so I only have the scales, and I'm going to do view all, and what it'll do is it'll bring those in, and there's the values. So I can do A for select all, X for delete, and now those are gone. So you can see we don't have those anymore. So next thing to do is let's go in and highlight the rotation. Once again, do view all, A to select everything, X to get rid of all of it, and now that's gone. So the only thing we have left at this point is the X, Y, and Z, which is what we had gotten before when we did the animation. So now we're going to go back to the very first key, and at the first key we are going to add a rotation value. So big thing to do before you do anything else is to remember to turn off auto key. In some programs everything turns red and you know about it, but in this program it's pretty subtle, the difference, so just kind of be aware of that. And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to add just a simple rotation. So I'm going to just hit I and add a rotation value, and this is just a basic rotation value. You can see nothing's necessarily happening. And now I'm going to move a little after to 60 because we want this to slow down a little. And now I'm going to rotate again, and we'll do it, let's say, one time. And now I'm going to do I again, assign a rotation, and now if we go and we play this back, now not only is it animating, but it's also, you can see it's also spinning as well. So, and it looks like the speed is too fast for it. So let's go in and do a little editing and modification for this. So let's see, it looks like the Y is the one that we want view selected. And also remember, you can use the middle mouse button if you need to adjust things. And the only thing we really want to worry about is the Y. So I'm going to select both of these. And actually, well, you know what, let's just the keys, we'll just leave everything as is. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to make that straight. And I want to make this straight almost until when this stops moving, which is at 60. Actually, let's put this back. This stops bouncing at 50. So this is where we want the straight line to stop. So if I go and let's just keep this here, and what we're going to have to do is grab this one and shrink it down and try to get it as close as we can to straight. And what's going to happen is it's going to go straight, and then gradually once it gets to this point it's going to slow down and stop moving. Now the other thing is if I go to play it and we go to play the animation, let me hold down the mouse button and bring the controller over. Okay, so this looks a little crazy, too much spin. So I would just grab this, and gradually move that down, and that's going to require me to take this curve and, oh, sorry, wrong key, and do the same thing again, and once again try to get this as straight as we can. And now if we go back and we look at this bouncing again, we get it up, and gradually it does a little bit of spin, and then it slows down and stops, and it looks like we might actually want to have it spin a little bit more. And then you can pull this out, which basically has an impact on how it does it. So that's the way to go about adding the rotation, just so we have that covered. Okay, so now that we have that figured out, we're going to go in and let's take a look at how to do the basketball, which should be relatively easy. So we're going to add another object mesh UV sphere. We get this in. Let's just change the camera view a little from perspective so you can see it. And we're going to switch this over to image editor and pull this up and do the same thing again of creating a new material and then going in and creating a new texture. And this one's actually easier than the last one. Image, and we go and open it up, and there is a basketball color. Open image, and we look at that, and voila, we already have something. And what this is it's almost like a slide projector. It's projecting it from the top and going all the ways through. And that's kind of how this is working. So we kind of have a basic setup, and then we can rotate this so it's projecting it down. Now, if I go to render this, there's two things off. First thing is basically turning on smoothing, so it looks a little bit more realistic. And if we render this out, it looks like one of those fake beach balls that basically that's painted to look like a basketball. So we need to add some other elements to it. So we're going to go and we're going to add another texture. So I'm going to select a new texture channel, hit new, and this one is going to be an image as well. And you'll see that there's actually another image we have related to the basketball, and that's called basketball bump. And if we look at that, what that is it's a black and white map. Anything that's black is going to go down, and anything that's black and white is going to go up. So we don't want this to be assigned to color, so we're going to toggle off that influence. We want it to be assigned to normal. And you can see now this is the one problem with this projection, is the closer you get to the edge, the more distortion it's going to get. Now this bump map is incredibly extreme. So let's switch this to 0.1, and now it's much less, but you can already start to see that there's a slight bump value that's existing. And what we want to do is, once we get that, let's render this out and see what we have. And then we can play around with the specularity as well. I'm going to go back to the original material. I'm going to change the specularity to a Phong specularity. I'm going to change the hardness down to 20, and I'll just make it a little wider. And then if I go back to the texture, I can also have this influence the specularity as well. And right now it's going to make the areas that are white shiny, less shiny, and you can play around with interesting things. Like if I do -1, now what it does is it makes this part shinier, the black actually becomes white, and then this is less shiny. So there's different things you can kind of play around to adjust and get this. And then this still looks like a plastic ball, not necessarily a leather ball, but it kind of gets you in the ballpark, and it helps to make it look a lot more realistic. So that's that.